You did everything right. You kept the conversation polite. You adjusted your personal schedule to match hers, and you provided continuous, unwavering attention. Yet, without an argument, an ultimatum, or a single word of explanation, her energy shifted from warm to completely detached. Most men treat this sudden drop in interest like a broken mathematical equation, operating under the illusion that if they just invest more effort, reply faster, or accumulate enough behavioral points, they can eventually redeem them for affection. They consume endless streams of generic dating advice for men, training their eyes to desperately scan for superficial signs she likes you, completely blind to the reality that human biology bypassed conscious reason millions of years ago. Subconscious interest is governed by primitive cognitive shortcuts that operate entirely independent of modern logic. When you decode the underlying architecture of attraction psychology, you realize that your over-accommodating intentions are often the exact weight drowning the connection. The vast majority of men fail because their behavior broadcasts a hidden emotional deficit, completely misinterpreting the foundational realities of evolutionary female psychology. Breaking this cycle requires an immediate cessation of the performance. You must dismantle the involuntary signals that are actively sabotaging your authority. The human brain relies heavily on heuristics, ancient mental shortcuts designed to process complex social environments instantaneously. Long before anyone evaluates the literal meaning of your spoken words, the limbic system has already mapped your biological stability. Consider the daily reality of a modern interaction. A man operating from a state of emotional scarcity checks his phone every 3 minutes, waiting for validation. When he finally responds, his phrasing is overly accommodating, hyper-vigilant, and carefully designed to avoid friction. Even if you attempt to mask this underlying anxiety behind rehearsed lines to project outward confidence with women, your physiology betrays you. The internal friction leaks through micro-expressions, a subtle restriction in your vocal cords, an accelerated shallow breathing rhythm, or a wandering gaze that constantly monitors her face for confirmation. The brain detects this incongruence effortlessly. It registers not as safety, but as an intuitive warning signal that your confidence is merely a performance, an artificial costume worn to extract a specific outcome. This behavioral leakage reveals a deeper structural flaw, playing a game where your center of gravity resides entirely outside of your own perimeter. Refining your vocabulary, building your wealth, or altering your lifestyle merely to look high value to the outside world means you have surrendered your sovereignty. Your internal state has become a consequence of external validation, plunging you directly into the paralyzing trap of an anxious attachment style. Evolutionary biology dictates that neediness acts as an immediate repellent because it signals a severe deficit in internal worth. True magnetic presence is never built on vanity or the desire to impress. It occurs when you establish an internal locus of control, meaning your stability is entirely self-generated. When your life is dense, disciplined, and purposeful before an interaction takes place, your nonverbal cues transform automatically. You occupy space deliberately. You hold eye contact without seeking permission, and you no longer view a relationship as a missing piece required to validate your existence. If you recognize these subconscious feedback loops in your own past experiences, hit the like button and leave a brief comment below. It helps calibrate the channel's data, and it signals that you are actively analyzing your own behavioral framework rather than just passively consuming content. When you remove your emotional dependency, you unlock the powerful architecture of psychological reactance. Behavioral science demonstrates that when any resource appears completely unlimited, hyper-available, and entirely guaranteed, the brain automatically devalues it to zero. Total availability removes the essential psychological tension required for attraction to sustain itself. Modern neurological research proves that human desire shares the exact same neural circuitry as motivation and goal pursuit. The dopamine system starves under complete certainty. It requires anticipation, boundaries, and the active preservation of space to ignite. Many men attempt to weaponize this reality by playing manipulative mind games, intentionally delaying text responses or pretending to be occupied. This strategy carries a sharp expiration date because the underlying incoherence between the performance and your actual lifestyle will always seep through. True detachment cannot be counterfeited. It is a structural byproduct of a man who possesses real commitments, unyielding self-discipline, and a vision that cannot be sidetracked by the desire for temporary comfort. In an anxious attempt to ensure a flawless interaction, many men deliberately sanitize their communication, eliminating every trace of conversational tension. They agree with every perspective, neutralize potential conflicts before they arise, and rush nervously to fill every silent pause. They convert what should be an unpredictable, dynamic exchange into a predictable, sterile environment. Psychological research into the misattribution of arousal shows that the human brain frequently misinterprets physiological stimulation, whether generated by uncertainty, intellectual challenge, or emotional contrast, and attributes that heightened state to the presence of the person nearby. When you strip away all tension to make an interaction perfectly safe, you inadvertently drain the raw emotional material that desire feeds upon. True masculinity commands the capacity to let silences exist without panic, to ask questions that demand real reflection, and to hold moments of uncertainty with absolute calm. Subconscious desire cannot be negotiated through compliance or submissive investment. It is an automatic biological response to what you are already executing in silence, when no one is evaluating you. The path to unshakable self-respect demands that you choose internal sovereignty over external submission, becoming a man entirely prepared to protect his boundaries and value his own time. But what happens inside the psychology of a relationship when a man finally draws that line, reclaims his frame, and walks away permanently? Why does that silent exit exert a gravity that months of chasing never could? To decode the exact neurological shift that occurs when you prioritize your self-respect over validation, click on the video appearing on your screen right now. Why women never forget the man who walks away. Enter that analysis. Ensure you are subscribed to Beyond Attraction Psychology and refuse to play the wrong game again.